learn AWS basics. We have learned uh, IAM. It's allow you to give access of your account to different people and you can manage the policies. Now the next part is storage. Now what are the components of computer? Just want to ask. What are different components of computers? CPU, memory, and important part is storage, right? Storage is one of the important part. Without the storage, what you will do with the computing? What you will do with your memory? Each and every company needs some data to be published. Each company will have some or other data, right? So the primary thing is data. We right now living in a era where data is equivalent to oil. The more data, the more information you have, the more you can earn from it. Okay, so the important part is how you will able to manage the data, where we can store the data in the cloud, how the data is stored, what are the different options I have to store the data. Okay, so this all things we have to understand. So in a nutshell, we are going to learn about data in S3. Okay, so now what are the options available in S3 to store the data? Now what is S3? Coming to S3. Now start. Let's start with what is S3 data consistency in S3, S3 storage tier, cross region application, S3 transfer acceleration, and so on. So for S3, S is the one of the most important service you should learn. You can see I have nearly 7 to 8 PPTs. So this is a major chunk. It will cover your 20% of your syllabus. Though it is a very small, you can say it's a storage device, but for AWS it's a very huge service. Okay, so now what is the full form of S3? S3 is a simple storage service. Okay, S3 is simple storage service. Now what are the things are available in S3, why we want to use and how we are going to use S3. Okay, now great. Okay, what is S3? S3 stands for simple storage service. Amazon simple storage service is a object storage service that offer industry leading scalability, data visibility, security and performance. S3 provide developer and IT team with secure durability, high scalable object storage. Okay, it it is easy to use with simple web interface and it allow you to store and receive any amount of data from anywhere in the web. Safe place to store your file. It's object storage. Data is spread across multiple devices. Okay, these are the few things I have read it out. Now what is why S3? There's a highlighted word is called object storage. What is object storage? Okay, what type of data can I store? Where the data stores? Okay, so data is stored in Amazon data servers or data centers, right? So you have remember we have diagram where we have shown you the region. Now S3 is again it's a global service, just like your IAM, it's a global service, but you have to select in which region you need to upload your data. Okay, so why we are selecting the region while uploading the data? So remember, each region is having availability zone, and each availability zone is divided into some data centers in that particular geographical area. So if I say my data is in Mumbai region, that means my data is in Indian territory. So many companies has to follow the government federation that the data has to be kept in local data centers. You can't move the data yeah, like Indian customer data can't be moved outside India. US clients data cannot be moved outside US. So that's why if you are working in company, you have to be very cautious and very alert while consuming the data and where you want to keep your data, right? If your company or you're working for a company which is US based and their whole data centers or all that information, all your clients are in US, which region you will select? Will you select Mumbai region in that case to put the data? You will try to put the data as near to uh, you will try to put the data as near to as where your client is. You want the data to be near to the client. Why? Because the data will flow over the internet. The data will flow over the internet. So keep in mind, selecting the region is one of the important thing where to keep the data. Now I will explain you how the data is uploaded, downloaded. But coming to S3, what is object storage? What is object storage? Okay, before that, how many of you know what is block storage? What is block storage? Anybody knows? What is block storage? Block storage means your actual physical hard disk. Your actual physical hard disk stores the data in a small blocks. It stores the data into small blocks. Okay, so this is your physical hard disk. This is your actual hard disk in your local system where the data is stored in a small block of 4 KB, 8 KB. So each file, each record is split into small chunk of blocks, and they are stored on your this physical hard disk. How they are stored, you can see this is your hard disk and small sector is created, this block is created. So this is one block. Here you can find small blocks are there. That's why it is called block storage. So in your OS, your Windows, your Linux system, split your data into small blocks and it stores in your hard disk. That's why you might have observed it takes huge time to load a bigger file. Even for small files, sometime it might take time to load because the file is divided into small blocks and it takes times to collect all the data. So it's not always that your data will be stored in a single sector. Your data can be stored here, the other part of the file can be stored here, or if space is available, that can be stored here. But remember, your data is stored in a block storage. Now these are the few property of block storage. You can read it in detail. So the OS, what is OS now? Anybody know what is OS? Operating system. Operating system is the interface between you and your computer, right? Which OS you are using? Windows. How many of you are familiar with the Linux server? Anybody who has used Linux here? Okay. So we are going to use Linux server in our future. So be very prepared for that. But anyhow, so right now we are using Windows, right? So Windows need some data. Now what is Windows? We are saying it's a OS, right? So OS means your what do you do when you are purchase your laptop? You install your OS. You first of all bring the data which contain your OS. That is the first part you do, right? You bring the data, you copy your data OS. We call it installation. You install your data. So where the data will be kept, where your OS will be kept. In C drive there is a folder called window. That means in this folder all the documents, all the files which require to run the OS are stored. That means first of all you have to copy the data in your hard disk before you can run the OS. Agree? Without that file, without that OS installation, can you run your window? What happens when you boot your laptop? When you start your laptop, what actually happens? Anybody knows? This is your hard disk, this is your RAM. What is the difference between RAM and ROM? This is ROM, right? This is ROM, and there is another part is RAM. We call it memory. What is the difference between both of them? You might have learned in your school time, right? You have explained the reverse. Yeah, RAM is temporary memory and ROM is permanent memory. Your hard disk, if you shut down, are you losing the data? So what happen? Hard disks are slow. ROM is slow. That's why we require RAM. RAM is 10 times faster than ROM. And what happen when you start your computer? So this is your data of your OS. These are the files which runs your OS, your application, your software, right? When you start your computer, all the information from the ROM is copied to your RAM, right? And your RAM will load the data and it will run your application, run your software. That's where memories come in picture, your RAM memory. But the caveat is that whenever you shut down your system or when the power supply goes, this RAM will lose the information. There is no, if the power supply is cut, you will lose your data on your RAM. So all the data which is stored on your ROM is basically stored, will be permanent, or your hard disk basically. Are we clear how the computer works? And one thing, yeah, just and one thing, the more the you know, right now also when computers are working, when the computers are working, still read and ROM is read and write is going on in your Windows. If you go to Task Manager, you can see the read and write on your hard disk. That means your OS is keep on reading and writing the data on your hard disk continuously. You can see. I'm not doing anything. just don't start anything and check, is your OS still reading and writing the data or the files from your hard disk? It can be any files because it's a OS. If you are smart enough, if you have knowledge, you can check which file they are reading. But for now, I'm just quoting that your OS keep on reading and writing the data even after the OS is loaded completely on the RAM. So always remember, the OS is completely loaded on your RAM, and all the files should be loaded on the RAM, whatever files required, and it's keep on reading and writing data on your hard disk. Is it clear? This is how your computer works, and your OS or your RAM required block storage. Why I'm stating that this required block storage, we'll see now. Anybody has any question? Somebody want to ask something? Okay. Your voice is breaking. Can you repeat? Yeah. Yes. So you have small memory called memory, which act between your RAM and ROM, right? So basically, your hard disk is again a part of type of ROM, read-only memory, and you are talking about a small part of BIOS memory, right? Where when you start the computer, the first thing which is start is BIOS. BIOS is started, right? And that loads the data in your RAM. So this is again a small ROM, and your actual hard disks are also called ROM. Okay, so this is where it cannot be changed. BIOS cannot be changed. That's what you are asking, right? Referring, right? Yeah, but this is also called that. Okay, now coming to S3. Now, is S3 a block storage? So all the hard disks which you are using, all the hard disks which we are using, it's in your mobile, it's in your laptop, it's anywhere, all are block storage. All are block storage. Now you have been using this circular disk, they are called hard drive, they are called HDD, right? They are called hard drive, and the new hard disks are coming in the market, they are called SSD, solid disk drive, solid disk drive, right? So there are so many hard disks are coming, pen drives, your hard drive, solid disk drive. There are so many drives, different type of storage devices are there in the market, but all of them are block storage. Okay, but your S3 is a storage device in cloud, but it's a object storage. Now, what is mean by object storage? First of all, your data is not stored in a block storage, that's obvious, but the data is not stored in a single device. Your data is not stored in a single device. Okay, your data is stored across multiple devices in the cloud. Okay, so this is your data center. If you have uploaded a file in S3, right, group of file, let's say I have uploaded, I'm not talking about right now one file, let's say you have uploaded 10 file. The one file will be stored in this device, one file can be stored in this device, the other file might be here, and so on, right? The data is distributed across multiple devices. Second, the your files, the name of the file or the full path of the file is the pointer where the data is stored, that's managed by Amazon. But the full path of your file, it is called key, we'll cover that in our further classes, but it's the pointer where the data is stored. Now, what's the major difference between block storage and object storage? If you are storing your data in your block storage, that data can be used to load the application, to run the application, to run your software, just like your OS. OS data stored in block storage, and it is been used by computer to load it on the RAM. But object storage, you can't use object storage to load the data, to load the OS. Getting my point? Why? Why can't you use object storage to load the data? Just give me one example. Can you run any software on your Google Drive? Can I run a OS on Google Drive? Can I run VLC player, media player in Google Drive? I have a file in cloud. Can we do that? You will say, sir, nowadays we can view the file in Google Drive. The files are opening in Google Drive. This is my Google Drive, right? Files are opening here. Is it possible to run the application here? No, it's not. Your Chrome has given a facility to read this file. That intelligence is with Chrome software which is running. Try to open with other old version of Chrome. You will not able to open these files. What happened when you open this file in browser? The file is getting downloaded behind the scene in your temporary folder, and then you will able to see the file. That's how you open the file in your browsers. Your browsers are supporting the file. Indirectly, the files are being loaded through your OS, right? But can I run an application in Google Drive? If I copy the whole window, I copy the window folder in Google Drive, and I somehow manage to provide the memory. Can I run the application in Google Drive? Getting my question? Are you able to understand what I'm trying to ask you? Can we run any software or any application in Google Drive? No. Why? Why not? It's a storage device. Because the data is distributed in different storage. Yeah, in different storage. Now your OS required all the files to be together. It will take a huge amount of load on your system if the files are stored in different devices. Even why your Windows gets slow all the time? Why your OS gets slow? Why your, let's say you have a computer which is 5 years old. You haven't changed the OS. You are using the same OS. Let's say you are using the Windows 7 from last 5 years, and you are not installing anything. You are not doing a thing. You are just using the laptop simple task. Still, your laptop gets slow. Why? Is your hard disk get slow? Why your OS gets slow? When you load the OS, when you boot your OS, all the data from your hard disk is already loaded to the RAM. Still your still your OS gets slow. Why? Because your hard disk, physical hard disk becomes slow. Your physical hard disk becomes slow. So the data which OS is keep on reading and writing becomes slow. So that's the important part. The files transfer between RAM and your hard disk. Okay, the your this is your RAM. and this is your hard disk. The, that more time it takes to transfer the data between hard disk and RAM defines the speed of your OS. Does it make sense to you now? So this is how your system works, right? So in S3, this S3 is the object storage. You can't run any application here. It's only the storage. You can just store the data. That's why it is called object storage. To run the application, to run the OS, you require a block storage. As simple as it. Okay. So what is the difference between block storage and object storage? The block storage, the data is stored in nearby as small blocks. That all the data are stored in a small block size, and and all the data is stored in a single disk. But in object storage, the data is spread across multiple devices. The files are spread across multiple devices. In S3, you can store as much data as you want. Okay, it's a unlimited storage. So basics of S3. S3 is a object storage. You can store unlimited amount of data. There is no upper cap. You can store as much data you want in S3. The single file size, a single file size can have size of 0 bytes to 5 terabyte. I'm talking about single file size. Single file can up to 5 terabyte. But if you have hundreds of file, you can upload all the files. If you have 1 terabyte file, you have 100 file of 1 terabyte, you can store them. Okay. In cloud, there is no upper limit. I am dealing with nearly petabyte of data on a daily basis. Okay. In my company, total storage is more than petabyte. We are receiving almost hundreds of GBs of data on a daily basis. Okay. The files are stored in buckets. Now there is a concept called bucket in S3. You can, as of now, remember it is similar to your local hard disk drive. So to access the data, you require this endpoint, right? Endpoint means inside this drive, the data is stored, right? Inside this drive, the data is stored. Okay, so you can just remember bucket as of now is similar to drive, your physical drive. Okay, there is a concept called bucket. We'll see that. Now, your S3 bucket name should be unique. In your account, no, globally. Your S3 bucket name, the name which you are creating the bucket, should be unique. Okay, why it is unique? Because the object which you are storing has a HTTP URL which can be accessed over the world, and it should be unique. So we will see that more in detail, how the URLs are created, how the S3 URLs are created, HTTP URL, S3 URL, and why it should be unique. Okay, so you can access your data across the world using this HTTP URL. Okay, now whenever we are uploading or downloading the file, which protocol we are using? Amazon is using HTTP protocol. Do you know what is HTTP protocol? Yes, no. Whenever we are communicating with each other, I'm communicating with each other, I'm communicating with you. In which language I'm communicating with you? In English right now or Hindi? Similarly, computers are communicating with each other, right? In which language they communicate with each other? What is the language of communication between the computers? Binary? ASCII? Yeah, binary. Binary language. Over the top of that, we have different protocols. Over top of that, we have different protocol. Like in human, you can understand Hindi, English, Marathi, Gujarati, and so on. But if I start talking in Chinese language, Korean language, will you able to understand that? Can you understand the different languages? So the two computers similarly, if I'm saying hi, how are you? So I'm sending a request. I'm sending a signal to a second person. That person, if he or she able to understand, what is the first thing they will do? They will receive the message. They will receive the message, and if they are able to understand the message, they will send an acknowledgement that I have understand the message, and along that they might send a new message to me. So this is how a transaction happens over the internet between two machines. One machine sends a message, second machine receive the message and sends a signal that message received. Okay, message receive. If this person is able to understand the message, the they will say message received and understood. But if he or she will not able to understand, what he will this the acknowledgement will be there. It is called acknowledgement. ACK. What will be the acknowledgement? Message received but not understood. Right? There are two possibility. Let's say this user has sent us information, message not received, gone. उसको message ही नहीं मिला. So what will be the response? No response, no acknowledgement. It is called timeout basically. So when you call some person in the crowd, you call out his name. If that person is not responding, we will wait for some seconds, right? Some 1 second, 2 second to acknowledge that person. If after that couple of seconds, if that person is not acknowledging, you try to re-send the message. That's the real world, right? आप किसी को आवाज़ देते हो, अगर वो रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहा तो आप 3-4 सेकंड वेट करते हो. That's a human acknowledgement, right? Similarly happens with the machines. This machine sends a signal. If this machine is not responding, you will get a timeout. The remote machine is not working. You might have seen these errors, different errors. This type of error you might see over the internet, right? Why you are getting this error? So you are sending the message, and if that's not received by the receiving machine or receiving person, if message is received, then there can be two acknowledgement. There should be the acknowledgement. There always should be the acknowledgement that I have received the message. So in this case there can be two possibility. The message is understood or message is not understood. If message is understood, that means it is a successful receive, right? Whatever you want to convey, it was successfully understood by the person, जो कि हम कर रहे हैं. तो आप क्या करते हो? आप अपना मुंडी हिलाते हो. You nod. If you are just saying, right? If you are in classroom, if we are teaching in the classroom, what will the acknowledgement given by you? You will nod your neck. You are able to understand. Something like that, right? Or you will say, yes, sir, understood. This is the acknowledgement with a positive. If you say, sir, I got the message, but I am not able to understand, then what I have to do, what the sender will have to do? They have to resend the message. right? So similarly, there is a protocol, right? Human has a protocol when we are communicating with each other. So what is the protocol that I am sending? You will note the your neck that you understood, something like that, right? Or you will say yes sir, understood sir. This is a protocol which we are using to communicate with each other. Similar computer needs to communicate with each other, right? So there should be some protocol, right? There should be some information that they will able to understand each other when they are sending and receiving the message. Agree? They are sending. So here you have to understand HTTP protocol. Just read this protocol in a brief when you have some time. I'm not asking you to go and deep in this. This is a protocol which is used to communicate between two computers over the internet. Over the internet, this is a protocol which we have defined to communicate between two computers. So whenever a computer is sending a message to another computer and if it's just a successful message, there's a status code. It's called a status code. What is status code? Basically acknowledgement codes. So there are a number of codes are there. If the code is 200, that means it's successful. If code is 400, it's a failure. Okay, so there are so many status code are there. So this is how the communication works, and uh, each computer knows when the message is delivered or not. Okay, so you can see success code 200. Okay, 201 created, accepted, no content, partial content, already reported, something like that. This is the error code: bad request, unauthorized, payment required, not found. This is the client error code, 300 code. Okay, so there are hundreds of codes are there. This is the most popular error codes in the which is used by general people. So you can see here 1xx, 2xx, 3xx, 5xx. These are the different protocol. So 200 is generally, this is a series for successful. 300 is redirecting or partial successful. 400 is some uh, partial errors. 500 is complete error. This is how the protocols are working over the internet. So whenever, even if I right now go to right click and go to inspection, if you go to the inspection console, okay, here, not here, network, okay, and just write again HTTP timeout, you will see success code 200, 200, 200, 204. Can you see here success code 200? That means the page you have downloaded, the request has completed successfully. If I enter abcdefg.com, if this website exists, then it will work. If not, oh, website is there. Now you can see error, success code cancelled. There is no website with this name. Are we clear? What is success code, status code? HTTP protocol का समझ आया? What is, so whenever you uploading or downloading the file with Amazon, Amazon is working on which protocol now? It is working on HTTP protocol. There are n number of protocol. HTTP protocol, SSH protocol. We are going to learn this. RDP protocol. So just go home and today just check what are the different protocol where computers are communicating with each other. Now why protocols are there? देखो, there's different protocol over the internet and over the network. There are some secure protocol, there are some unsecure protocol. It is just like your mobile service. Previously you were having landline, now you have mobile, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. So these different protocols are there. So each protocol has its own cons and pros. So that's why over the internet two systems needs to work with each other. So we are using HTTP protocol. So if we are using HTTP protocol, Amazon is using HTTP protocol. So if you are uploading or downloading any information, status code 200 should be there if it is successful. Now this is a exam question. Whenever you are getting, you are not getting success code 200, that means there is some issue. So whenever you upload the data, you should get status code 200. Okay. Now Amazon provide you or give a guarantee that Amazon has created S3 bucket with 99.99 availability of S3 platform. Means it is giving guarantee that whenever you are able to, you want to access the data will be available 99.99. That's they have designed the platform, but the data will be available 99.99 times. So if you are hitting 1,000 times in Amazon and getting a file, there is only one file you might not able to get in a given scenario, otherwise you will get the file. For this I can give an example. How many times you have access drive from any file from Google Drive, and you logged in into the Google Drive and you found that your file is not there? Did that happen? All of a sudden file is gone, or you are not able to access the Google Drive. How many times you have faced this? Very rarely that's the Google Drive is not able to, you are not able to access the Google Drive. That's the availability, that the service is available. That's called availability. So Amazon gives that it has 99.9 percentage you will able to access the S3. Okay, that's the availability. Now what's mean by durability then? What is mean by durability? There's a very good difference between availability and durability, and people get confused between them, these two concepts. And Amazon give guarantee about availability and durability. So Tata cars, they are very durable uh, as compared to Maruti car. What is mean by durability then? Anybody? The Ola service is not available. Hmm. So Ola service is available or not available? Car are available or not available? That's the availability. And the durability is how long you will able to use that thing. So I am using Google Drive for last 10 years, 15 years. The file which I have uploaded to Google Drive is still there. 15 years back file is still there. There is no corruption in the file. Data didn't corrupted. That's the durability. So the file which we have uploaded is intact as it is. So as 3, Amazon gives a guarantee that the data will be 99.999999999 times. 11 nines are there. Durable. And why they are giving this guarantee? So that the companies put their data on the cloud. If they are not giving the guarantee, will you use S3? If you will find that you are losing your files, the files are getting corrupted. Okay, so if you store 10 million files, 10 million files means 1 crore files in S3. So with the given durability, you are expected to lose a file, single file in 10,000 years. That's the guarantee Amazon gives you. Okay, so you can, it's a storage, you can store as any type of file. You can upload you can upload your PPT, you can upload your text file, you can upload your music, you can upload your video files, you can upload anything. Okay, there is no provision that you can't upload this type of file. You can upload your installation file, anything. Life cycle management. What is life cycle? Human life cycle. Human has a life cycle that you get born, then childhood, then teenage, adulthood, mid age, old age, and die. That's the human life cycle, right? That's similarly, data has a life cycle. Data has a life cycle, right? On a day-to-day basis, you are generating so much amount of data, and you are deleting also. So as per your use, you generate and delete the data. You use the data. So data has a life cycle. So you can manage that life cycle on S3 as well. Data life cycle. Okay. Data is generated. Data is available. Data is been used. If data is not used, you can move it to archive. If still you don't want the data, you can delete. So you can do that manually, and you can ask S3 to do that for you. You can do manually, or you can ask Amazon to do that for you. So that's a S3 lifecycle management. Versioning. You can version your data. Okay. What is my versioning? In a very simple, when you create your assignment in your college, first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, you give something like that, right? You create your PPT, you save the PPT. You might be overwriting the PPT, or you can create like PPT number 1, PPT number 2, PPT number 3, PPT number 4, and you keep on creating the different version of the same PPT. That is the versioning of your file. Similarly, you can version the data as well. Encryption. What do you mean by encryption? Securing your data. Okay, the data which you are keeping in S3, you can keep in encrypted format. Where we want to encrypt, why we want to encrypt the data? Because if cyber attack happen on your data, and any hacker gets your file, gets the data, he or she should not be able to decode your data or understand what is written inside your data. So that's why we want the data to be encrypted. Okay, your data should be in encrypted format. Always remember, always keep your data into encrypted format. MFA delete. I have told you what is MFA, multi-factor authentication delete. There are a couple of important files which you store on your S3 bucket, and you don't want someone else to delete. Your AWS account is shared between multiple people, right? Your AWS account is shared between multiple account. Your data is shared between multiple people in your company. There might people who might by mistake delete your data. So you can lock your data, that without the device, without a token, without your OTP, the files will not be getting deleted because they are important files. Okay. Secure data using access control list and bucket policy. We can create the policies, bucket policy, different policy for your data. Okay. So I'm not going further. There are more PPTs right now. In a more slides are there. So we are right now on the slide number 5. We'll continue tomorrow further. But anybody has any question on this right now? So I will show you how your S3 looks like. So you can go to your console. Okay, you can go to console, click on S3. Okay, you can search S3 in the search bar as well. You will see buckets here. Okay, you can see the bucket. Now you can see here inside the bucket If I click here, there are files. You can upload, you can download the files. I will show you in detail how we can do that, but right now, just for the demo purpose, I'm just uploading one file. So I have uploaded the file. It's easy to upload and download the file, but how to use that file, what are the different properties, okay, the property of the file, and so on. But right now, from now onwards, okay, every file in S3, every file in S3, we call it object. Remember, we call it object storage. Every file in S3, we call it object. So now you can see here, it is saying 3 objects, not file. No, from now onwards, what I will say, object. What I am going to say, object. In S3, each and every file is a object. So if from now onwards, file in S3 we call it object. So I am going to use the word object. So be clear. If I'm saying object, it's a file in S3 bucket. Okay. So here I have 3 objects, means 3 files. 2 file, 1 folder. We are going to use this thing, and how we can create the bucket, how we can upload the data in S3, and what are the different property of each and every object in S3. We'll cover that. Okay. So there are so many things to cover, but right now, just we have covered a lot of theory today. We have learned so much about S3. So what we have learned, what is S3? S3 is the object storage in AWS cloud. You can store as much amount of data as you want. Okay, your bucket name should be unique, not the file name. Okay. And whenever you upload the data in S3, if it's successfully uploaded or downloaded, you should get a success code 200. Okay, S3 gives Amazon gives 99.999% durability and 99.9% availability. You can store any type of files. There is lifecycle management, there is versioning, encryption, and you can create policies in S3. That's it for today. Anybody has any question, please let me know. Bucket is like a drive, not folder. Drive. Your C drive, your D drive, your E drive, not folder. That's the difference between drive and folder.